Please note that in this show, you might hear graphic descriptions or language that may not be appropriate for everyone. Listener discretion advised.
She would always say, when I leave, I'm going to come visit you. I'm going to come visit you. I used to say, Mama, look, anything you got to tell me, you can tell me now. Don't come visit me. I don't want to hear that. I don't want you to come see me or nothing like that. But you know what? Now I'm a dreamer. I have visions and dreams. She shows up in my dreams. And when she's in my dreams, I know to pay attention.
Welcome to Parentless Podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Relaford. On this show, we're going to be speaking with others who have experienced the loss of one or both of their parents or parental figures. As we heard in episode 12 with Louisa Velarde, being parentless is like an island, and I don't know how to swim. Thank you for being my life jacket.
Good morning, Steph. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I really appreciate it. My name is Andrea Powell. I am currently 43. And right now I'm in a little small town called Brunswick, Georgia, from Chicago, Midwest, homegrown Georgia transplant. And thank you for having me.
Who are we here for and who is your person?
So we're going to start with Dad. His name was Edward Mays. And both of my parents are gone. Her name was Deborah Ann Mays and his name was Edward Mays. And out of the two of them, I don't know, I would definitely say Mom was my person because I'm a girl. I was the only girl out of 5 children. So it was like we were outnumbered. So Mom was my person. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. Well, so we talked a little bit before this and you said that your dad passed first. So Let's start with him. What happened with your dad?
So he passed in, I do believe it was 2006. He had a heart attack. So he was at work. So it was totally unexpected. I was in Illinois at the time. I believe he lived in Bolingbrook and I lived in Plainfield. So about 30 minutes away. And I remember I just got out of choir practice coming from church and I got a call and it was somebody that I didn't even know, but I guess my number was in his phone and they called and told me what happened. And I don't remember anything else. I don't remember how I got to the side of the road. I don't remember how I pulled over. I think I must have called somebody because then people started coming to where I was because I could not drive. And it was like a blow. It was like a gut punch. I mean, not to say that knowing someone is passing is any easier, but when it's like out the blue, like, you know what I'm saying? Nobody wakes up thinking, oh, I'm going to die today or I'm going to lose someone today. So it was like, it was hard. It was really hard. So, 2006, I believe I was around 28 or so when he passed. We were on good terms, decent terms. I know, and if you'll allow me just to go out there. So my father, growing up, all of us, like I said, there were 5 of us, and we did not have the best of relationships. He was a very abusive man. I'm talking physically, mentally, emotionally, like you name it, he dabbled in it. I know there were times where he would come home and beat everybody from mom down to the dog. And yes, the dog. Like, what did the dog do? I mean, what did we do? Yeah, but like, what did the dog do? So at that time when he passed, we were speaking. So it was a decent relationship. I wouldn't say that we were estranged, but it was definitely different, definitely tough, definitely, I don't know if I have the words for it. And that's kind of difficult considering this is what I do for a living. Yeah.
All right. Well, you mentioned a lot of important things before we pressed record. So with that abusive background that he had, tell us now kind of where you are with him and kind of how you got there.
He, like I said, extremely abusive. But I will say that, and I want to put this disclaimer out there. When I laugh, it's not in any way, shape, or form minimizing or, making light of domestic violence. I'm not. I'm able to laugh because I am healed. I'm speaking from a place of being healed. God has given me the grace to understand what it was like when my father was growing up, which is an entirely different story. Going to write a book about it and everything. But he was subject to some serious mental, physical abuse. So it's cyclical. So when he had his family, he did what he knew to do or what he witnessed to do. So I didn't know the entire story until after he passed, but I did know enough to where God was able to give me grace to forgive him like completely and let it go. And that's why we were able to have, I don't want to say a good relationship. It was decent, but I feel like even in that, if it was a tighter relationship, then it would not have gone the way it went. For instance, I'll share this. When my father passed, he was experiencing a bout of homelessness. And no one in the family knew. Now, mind you, I lived in Plainfield, Illinois. He lived in Bolingbrook. That's 30 minutes away. But he was living in his van. And we didn't know this until after he died. Had the relationship been, and I don't know if it was a pride thing, he was a manly man, or if he felt as though he didn't have a right to approach me in that manner because of the background, because of all that transpired growing up. But had our relationship been tighter, I believe that maybe he would have spoken up. Like, I have 5 brothers now, and if I ever find myself being homeless, trust and believe, I'm knocking on somebody's door like, hey, help me. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think he was at a place where he felt comfortable enough to do that. And as a result, was living in his van in his last days. I think our relationship was decent. I wish it could have been better, but what can you do now, right?
So his passing, how has that affected anything with you and your brothers? Are you guys closer due to that, or did that not really affect? Were you already close? Or are you
well, and that's one thing that's so weird. One thing that he ingrained in each and every one of us is family is all you have. So while we in the house, me and my brothers, we grew up rough and tough, right? So we would I'm talking about fight but between all of us. But if anyone else were to try to do, no, we all going in. So me and my brothers, we've always been very close. And to this day, we are very close, which is funny. Like I said, he was really big on family. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but that's one thing that he instilled in all of us. So all of my brothers are really close to this day. I am a middle child, but they treat me like I'm the baby. So how has it impacted us? I mean, I know oftentimes when we do all get together, that's what we talk about growing up and the stories and all the stuff. And even sometimes when you try to share these stories with friends, they look at you like that can't be real. Yes, boo-boo. It was real. There are no fabrications. There is no, fluffy stuff up. This is our real life. And like I said, please understand that me laughing is not making light of it. I'm at a point where I can talk about it freely because I'm walking in healing. So I don't know. How has that impacted us? Just letting us know that life can end in the blink of an eye. So take advantage of the time that you have with your loved ones today.
Exactly. Yeah. And you said you're going to write a book, right? So all those stories are going to be in there.
Oh, so much more. So much more. Like I said, my dad, what transpired in his youth, I can see where he probably needed therapy. He probably needed, and I'm not talking about just regular therapy, I'm talking about a psychologist. He probably needed medicine because of the trauma that he experienced at a very young age. No human being should have to. So yes, that story and more, all the little anecdotes and all the little stories. His neighborhood name was Black Rambo. So all the little stories about Black Rambo and all that good stuff. Yeah. Yep. It'll be there.
Let me know definitely for sure when it's out.
Yes, ma'am.
Be checking it out. All right, let's go into mom just a little bit. So what you mentioned your mom's name before, Deborah Ann.
Deborah Ann.
When maybe just the month and the year, when was she born and when did she pass away?
She was born in August of 1950 and she passed in September of 2013. And that one, I will say, and I know you didn't ask me a question yet, so if I'm jumping the gun, just let me know. That one really through me. So she had some physical ailments. I know she was, using a walker to, walk and stuff like that. But nothing to where what happened would have prepared us. So she was living in Louisiana for quite a while. She was born in Illinois. And I went down there to get her to come live with me in Illinois. And then she lived up in Wisconsin with my brother for a little bit. And I know one day she went to the doctor and she didn't come home. And then next thing you know, I'm getting calls saying, hey, you guys need to come see mom. So I drive the 8 hours or whatever, and they have her on like the ventilation, the breathing tube and all that good stuff. And I'm like, what happened? Like, she came here for a cold or whatever. And this is pre-COVID because like I said, 2013. But the doctor was saying, hey, there's nothing more we can do. But it did not even click. We were like, what do you mean? So it took us a day before the doctor was like, hey, at this point, I'm going to have to make a decision. Like, because it's like, she didn't use the word inhumane, but she was like, it's not good for us to leave her in this condition. So we were trying to wrap our minds around what's going on, but we knew that my mom, she did not want to be left around because we talked about this before she went. She didn't want to be like in a vegetative state. She didn't want to be resuscitated. She, let her go, but we didn't. So like for like a day, a little over a day. And sometimes I beat myself up about that. Like we should have let her go. Like that was selfish of us to keep her around. She was ready to go. She's ready to go. So I think it was day 2. We all got together and was like, okay. So the doctor pulled the plug and she pulled the thing out. I forget what it's called. Intubation. So the opposite of intubation. And my mom for the first time was lucid. And she looked around at all of us. She looked us in the eye. She's like, what's going on? What happened? And no one wanted to say anything. So of course, here I am. I'm like trying to explain to my mom what's going on. I was like, well, you're in the hospital. This is what the doctor said. And she just kind of exhaled. And she said, well, thank God for Jesus Christ. And then she closed her eyes and she took her last breath and went on to be with Jesus. And to watch that, like it took a while, like minutes passed. And one by one, my brothers filed out of the room. And I get it. Men handle grief differently, I believe. And if I'm biased in that, y'all forgive me. No diss against me. Some men handle grief differently. So one by one, they filed out the room as, she was taking her last breaths. But I couldn't leave. I wanted to. And I'm like, man, I know my mama wouldn't leave me. So I stayed and watched her until she took her very last breath. And man, I just remember the next few days being a blur of trying to get stuff done and doing so many things and running. Because like I said, some men handle grief differently. So I felt like it was on me to make sure that all their arrangements and everything was like, I know I cried when she first left because I know my husband came in and he's like, holding me. But then after that, like, I don't remember anything until we got the ceremony or the funeral. And I will say this, it is so important for people to take the time to grieve. Like, even if you have to get away from everyone who you love and or care about for just a second to recognize the gravity of the situation. And I don't think I did that. And as a result, I almost lost my mind. So I remember shortly after she passed, shortly after the funeral, thoughts of her would try to come in and I would literally say, like say something like that out loud. And I'd shake my head, like to literally physically shake the thought out of my head. And that went on for a while. And the more the thoughts came, the louder I would scream, and I would shake my head. And this went on for weeks. And then I don't know how I let myself get this bad, but I remember I was grocery shopping in Jewel. Y'all, my Midwest people, y'all know what I'm talking about. And the thoughts tried to come back of my mom. And I stood there in the middle of the grocery store. I was like, and I'm slapping my head and screaming and shaking my head. And I was like, whoa, Andrea, what are you doing? Like, this is not normal. This is not healthy. You need some help. So yeah, like I literally almost lost my mind behind losing my mom. So yeah, nugget for anyone out there who's not going through the process, allow yourself the time and the space to heal, because it's going to come out of your body. It's going to manifest in one way, shape, or form or another. It might as well be in a safe place as opposed to in the grocery store, you whacking your head and screaming, people thinking you're having a breakdown, which I probably was.
Yeah. Where do you go from there? What happened after that?
I had to tell somebody because no one knew that I was like, physically slapping myself trying to get rid of. So I had to tell somebody. And the more I was open to speaking to people, the more I was able to see that there were people who wanted to love me through the process. There were people who wanted to journey with me through the process, that I will say through my pride and through my own selfishness, I did not allow them, because that's how one of my toxic traits, when I am frustrated or grieving or whatever, I withdraw, because I feel like I need to get away and I need to make this make sense in my head. And then I can present myself to the public. So I did that. I withdrew. And in that selfishness, in my own selfishness, I did not allow my brothers, my husband, my friends, I didn't allow them the process, the opportunity to grieve with me. So yes, that, and a lot of prayer, believe it or not. And then eventually therapy. Listen, my Black brothers and sisters, therapy is not a cuss word. Get yourself some therapy, get it in your life. So yeah, it was a process. It was a process.
So we do talk about therapy. So let's just go there now. How long from when that incident happened to the time that you got yourself some therapy? And then what kind did you choose? What was most helpful from that?
Right. I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't a right away thing. Because like I said, I don't know what it is about us Black people and therapy, but it was years. It was years before I was like, oh, let's get some therapy. And then I realized, like, man, I should have did it a long time ago. I'll talk about childhood issues, grief issues, you name it. Like, so much came up. But not only that, during some of my podcasts, I was able to talk about, grieving processes and how it can be stored in different places in your body and how it will manifest in different ways. So I got it all over the place. I got to do it with my family. I got to do it with my friends, got to do it with my church, got to do it with people that I was podcasting with, and then officially the therapist. And she was great. She wasn't like specific, like a grief counselor or anything like that. She was just a therapist, a counselor. And we went through the whole gambit of, like I said, starting in childhood up to current. And it's so weird because I am a talker, as you can see. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. But unless someone is taking the time to ask those probing questions, I will more often than not just glide right over it. But it was like a form of accountability. And that's definitely, I needed some structure. And she was just a real awesome lady. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, no, I always say I haven't been to therapy. I think that from what I've heard about it, it does sound like it's a really great thing. I think everyone should try to get some if they can. Did she maybe teach you any type of coping skills or anything while you were there?
Well, I want to say that while not necessarily coping skills, because by the time I made it to the therapy, I was, of course, no longer slapping or hitting my head. I will say that she taught me that although in my head, I was like, oh, I'm a communicator. But just because you talk does not mean that you are a communicator. Until there is an equal understanding, until both parties understand what both parties are saying, what both parties have heard, and how it makes them feel, and then come together with a solution on how to move forward in a way that does not negatively impact one, both should win. Until all that has transpired, communication has not taken place. And I was like, that was a real eye opener because, like I said, I talk. As you can see, I'm gonna talk. But just because you talk a lot does not mean that you're a communicator. So I have learned to listen more, a lot more, and not just to listen to what is being said. Just listen to someone's body language, what is being communicated in their eyes, in their countenance, and then ask the questions. Okay, so this is what I heard, and this is, and repeat it. So she taught me some good communication skills, I believe, that have actually positively impacted how I deal with different kinds of people. So for that, I'm grateful.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's not to be discounted at all, because sometimes I think I'm a pretty great listener, but then I will go off on some other, like in my head, something has transpired that this person didn't even say. Like, so definitely it's the little things. I really love that you learned that. And just from how you're able to communicate that now, I do think that you've increased your communication skills. So go you.
And I'm learning still to this day. So yeah, I'm grateful. And I keep saying, I'm going to do it again. Like, I think don't wait till the bad stuff happens to get yourself in therapy, man. Go ahead. Like, you get your oil change every once in a while. You don't wait till your engine lock up to go get an oil change. No, I think every person should be engaged in some way, shape, or form in therapy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, so you said that you were right there with your mom when she passed away. I think that in itself is a unique experience, definitely. So did you feel any like difference in the room? You know, some people say they could tell when the presence has left or anything. Did you feel any of that?
Well, I will say that I don't know if I can say that I felt it. When I knew that they were ready to pull everything out, I turned on music because that's what she loved. We would, praise and worship together. So I had on the music and I was like, if she's going out to a soundtrack, But I could tell, not because of a presence I felt, but because of, it was, and if I'm being morbid, I'm sorry, but there's like an exhale that's longer and more profound than just a normal exhale. So it's like, okay, you could tell she was done. But I think she was done when she said, well, thank God for Jesus Christ. And she closed her eyes. And I think at that minute, she was done. But her body was like, okay, let's shut her down, whatever else we got to do. And then when I saw the physical exhale, I was like, okay, she's gone. But yeah, I think at that moment, because she knew, like she knew, like who, and I love the fact that that's her testimony, her last word spoken. What more cooler words could you have to say that will speak of the life that you lived? Thank God for Jesus Christ. She didn't say no other stuff, like that was those were her last words. And then she closed her eyes, and I think in that moment she was gone. The word says, out of body in the presence of Christ. I think that's when it happened. Her body was just catching up with her spirit. But yeah.
So I haven't had that experience of, someone being kind of taken off of the machines. But in my head, and from some of the things that I think that I've understood and heard from other people, was that, I don't know if people tend to wake up and be lucid, like you said. So when you saw her and when she opened her eyes and she was there, did you have any like second thoughts then for a minute? Like, oh, she's here, or?
I'll say no, because there was a point before they pulled the plug where like the previous night, where you could see that her eyes were open. And this was what sucked. And this is why I said that I wish we'd have done it sooner. Because she was intubated and she was lucid, she would kind of gag. But I could tell that she was trying to communicate with us because she had these eyes and they were like, wow, like, what's going on? And I think she was trying to call for somebody, or because she was trying to write, like we gave her pen and paper. She was trying to write, but it was just squiggly lines. So she was lucid then. And I think she was, even then, she was probably saying, hey, get me out of here. Like, I'm over it. But in our selfishness, like, Mom, this is Mom, we were like, okay, hold on. So they were able to like put her back under, or, you know, whatever. So that way she wasn't like wild and panicked or whatever. But the next day when they actually removed everything, she was calm, cool, and collected. And she looked at us like, what's going on? Like, she spoke. And that's another thing. Like, once you've got that thing down your throat, like, it's not easy to speak. If you've been days without water, it's been like in your, so she did. She just looked at us. That was my mom. I knew who I was, and she knew who I was. She was like, what's going on? And I'm waiting for somebody else to speak up. Nope. So I tried to explain what was going on, and she just looked around and she said, well, thank God for Jesus Christ. And that was it. Like, she was cool, calm, and collected. So yeah, she was ready. I think she understood. She knew. She was ready. She was ready.
When were your parents together?
So they were together for 20 years prior to him. He left, which was funny. What's not funny? Another story. I'll slide in there real quick. I had to be about 14 and 13, 14. And me and my friend, my best friend, were at the movies, which is a rare occurrence because as the only girl, I was not allowed to go out and do stuff by myself. And went to the movies, and I actually saw my father with another lady and a child at the movies. And everything in me wanted to approach him, but I knew, like, okay, you don't approach Black Rambo and try to check Black Rambo. So I ran to the bathroom. Me and my bestie, she's trying to get me together. I'm trying to put my mind, what did I just see? So I couldn't wait. I ran home to tell my mama, oh, you're not finna cheat on my mama. She already knew. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. So fast forward, had to be a few months later, he left. Like, you left. You're the abusive dude. You're the cheating dude, but you left her with 5 kids. So she moved to Louisiana. We moved, because I was a minor, from Chicago, because there's no way that she could, raise us all by herself. So she moved back in with her parents, my grandparents. So they never actually got a divorce that whole time. I don't know if I was 15, when did I, 95? So from 95, so about 10 years, a good 10 years, they were separated, never technically got a divorce before he died. And then 7 years later, she passed. So they were together 20 years.
Okay. So my question, like, I'm trying to get at, like, when did Jesus come into your lives? Like, was your mom always?
Always. We were raised in the church. Okay. Now, my dad, not so much. It's not funny. I'm sorry. But yeah, we were raised in the church. We went to church whether we liked it or not. Y'all, mom going to church, y'all going to church. Come on, let's go. So yeah, we were raised in the church.
I know that, our parents impact our lives and all of that stuff. And so I just feel like because you were raised that way and you were able to have that spirit, I think this is why you're able to kind of handle your whole story the way that you're able to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It is I don't give credit to anyone, not the therapist, not nobody else. It is by the grace of God that me and my brothers are not like hardened homicidal criminals. I'm sorry. But it's true. It is only by God's grace, because it could have went so much. Like, it could have went so bad. And my mom, she was a praying woman. And I believe that's the only reason that kept her. And you also have to understand, that was a different day and age back when they were together. Like, when they said till death do you part, they meant that thing. But I also know now that I don't believe that it was God's will for my mom to stay with that man who would go upside her head and go upside our heads as well. So, but back in the day, like I said, till death do you part, they meant that thing. So the whole time she just believed and she prayed, and I think that's how she made it through. That's how she was able to persevere all those years. So, yeah.
And you mentioned your husband. So how long have you been married?
Well, we were married 10 years. Last May, like literally not even a year ago, we finalized the divorce, and it was the friendliest divorce in history. That's what I say. It was my goal, because I don't have like a malicious or like vengeful bone in my body. We couldn't make marriage work, but we still friends to this day. Like, I'll text him, he'll text me, we'll call, chit chat. Like, two people, you can do it. You can do it. And I was also one of those people, like, till death do you part. And I used to joke all the time, like, you not leaving me. And if you do leave me, I'm going to stalk you. And if you get a girlfriend, I'll be hiding in the bushes, like all that good stuff. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. And that's another thing, like being raised in the church. I'm a praise and worship leader, like all that good stuff. Church. And I know. And I hope this touches somebody out there who's in a situation like that. Maybe you trying to figure out if you and your husband are going to make it work, and you're being led to do other things, but you're staying still because of the fact that you're in church, you have a position, you have a title. What are other people going to say? Listen here, baby girl, or sir, whoever you are. Because the church folks, they quick to say, God hates divorce. God hates divorce. You took a vow, so death do you part. Yes, God hates divorce, but he loves you. Govern yourself accordingly. And that's all I'm going to say. So yeah, we are no longer married, but we still cool. We will chit chat all day. So yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered, like, because my dad passed away when I was when I was 13. So I always had the idea that, well, if you get married, they're going to either die or they're just going to leave or whatever, so why get married in the first place? Mm-hmm. So, and just kind of how you mentioned how you were with your husband a little bit. I don't know. I just didn't know if, like, especially seeing your dad when you were 14, if all of that stuff had any impact on your thoughts on marriage.
I will say I knew young that I wanted to be married. Like, I am the marrying kind. And I don't take marriage off the table. I'm only 43. I got a whole nother life to live. So I have not taken that off the table. I will say this. It wasn't my dad that made me feel some kind of way about getting married. Like, because I'll say he was a protector. I know that sounds crazy because he was abusive, but he was a protector. Like I said, he might do us wrong, but if anybody else looked at us sideways, you will experience the wrath of Black Rambo. So he was a protector. He was a provider. That's something he always gonna work. So he took care of us. So those are the very things that I looked for in a mate. Of course, you can keep the abuse out. So I won't say that he impacted me negatively in that way, shape, or form, because if anything, I was like, I had to go there. No dude would ever put his hands on me. First of all, I'm not going to just like take it. And I'm not dissing nobody who's in that situation. I want y'all to hear my heart. But if any man were to ever put his hands on me, have you ever seen What's Love Got to Do with It? When Tina finally she took off. I will say who did impact me, my thoughts of marriage. So like I said, we had to go down south, Louisiana, live with my grandparents who were her parents. And my grandfather used to say this to me all the time. Now, mind you, I'm 15 years old, and he would say this to me. And now that I think about it, he would say this in front of my mother, which probably was like a horrible thing to do. But he was like, granddaughter, that's JP right there. Granddaughter, you go to school, you get an education, you get a good job. So that way, if you grow up and you get married to a dum-dum, you don't have to come home and stay with your parents. So... and that was really messed up because he would say that in front of my mom, which is exactly what happened to her.
You guys had just got, right? You just got
exactly. So I did exactly what he did. He said, go get an education. I went and I got a degree. I got a couple of degrees. I got a good job. I got my own house, my own car. So when my husband did come along, I was established. And I thought, now I will say he, not what my father did. My granddad, he's the one that impacted how I felt about marriage, because my whole thing was, Andrea, you got to get yourself together and you got to be straight, because just in case you marry a dum-dum, you have to go home and live with your parents. Oh, God help. Yes. So.
And look at that. Look at that. Thank you, JP. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Wow. Everyone should hear those words. Yes. Yes, go, because you might not know he's a dum-dum until later. So
And so much, because when you in love, you in love. I love him. Whatever. Insert eye roll. Let me stop. Yeah.
I like your shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Mentally rolling my eyes right now for the audience.
Parentless Podcast is available on many podcast platforms, including Spotify, Spreaker, Apple, Google Play, and Amazon, just to name a few. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please consider sharing the show with a friend or rating and reviewing wherever you're listening right now. This will help get the word out about the show, and if one person can be helped by listening to someone's story found here, that is amazing. If you would like to help support the show, view extra content, and hear about special projects happening with Parentless Podcast, please visit www.patreon.com/parentlesspodcast.
Tell me about the impact that she had on your life when she passed away.
It was difficult. Like, there was a good couple months in there that was a blur from the time she passed until the time where I found myself screaming and slapping myself in the head in the middle of Jewel. But I do know that she was like, I don't want to say she was the glue. My mom was the calm in the storm. She was the oasis in the desert. She was the most meek and mild and humble human being I've ever met in my entire life. I'm talking about got every reason to be angry, got every reason to be vengeful, got every reason, but never, like, I can probably remember once or twice, maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life where I ever heard the woman like yell, like actually yell. So
as a mom, let me just say that's amazing. Kudos to her.
Like, she was not a screamer. She was not like, she wasn't. Yeah. So I'll say, if I can say that losing her calmed me down. Can I say that? And I know that sounds weird because I was an angry little something. I got friends that will attest this. My best friend, when I met her in 7th grade, I was a mean little something. I don't even know why she stuck with me, but she did. And we best friends to this day. But I was angry. I was loud. I was sassy. And didn't care about your feelings or how you felt about it. It sounds so horrible, but it's true. But I say after she passed, I think I calmed down a lot. And I don't know if it's because I would remember some of the stuff that oh my gosh, she had these sayings that to this day stick with me. And I think even then, unknowingly, she was preparing me for life, man. Like, for real, like 2 wrongs don't make a right. I'm sure everyone's heard that. But how many times do you sit and consider it, right? If you was going to jump off, if your friends jump off the bridge, you go and jump off with them. Every parent says that. But do we consider it? Do we consider it? One thing she would always tell me, oh my gosh, that used to get on my nerves. And one time I told her she was not getting on my nerves because I was always respectful. But anytime I had an issue, she would say, well, did you pray about it? Okay. It don't matter what I came to this woman with. Did you pray about it? Until one day I was like, why? Why you always ask me, did I pray about it? I'm coming to you. I'm talking to you. But you know what that did? Now what my knee-jerk reaction is whenever a situation transpires, I'm praying. So when I say that woman has impacted me in more ways than I probably yet have to know, recognize, or encounter, she did. Another thing, she would always say, when I leave, I'm going to come visit you. I'm going to come visit you. I used to say, Mama, look, anything you got to tell me, you can tell me now. Don't come visit me. I don't want to hear that. I don't want you to come see me or nothing like that. But you know what? Now I'm a dreamer. I have visions and dreams. She shows up in my dreams. And when she's in my dreams, I know to pay attention. So she always said, I'm going to come see you. I'm going to come see you. And I'd be like, no. Don't you come see me. But yeah, she does. She comes, shows up in my dreams, and I know to pay attention because it's important.
What was the most vivid dream that you remember from her?
Oh, I still have dreams. Like to this day. I had one recently where, and I do believe that, I don't know if because I haven't shared with the person who I think it impacts. So let's not do that one. But when I say that, okay, here's one. So this was years ago. I had a dream that we were in a house and it was huge, but it was like old fashioned. And she had left me something, but she was still there. So to say that she had left me something was kind of weird, but I had to go get it. So I don't know if you've ever lived in an old house where they have the cast iron stoves to cook on and produce heat for the home. So no AC or anything like that. It's like a cast iron stove, like something you'd see in a Tom and Jerry cartoon. So I went into the room that she told me to go to for the stuff that she had left me. And there was this huge cast iron stove with a huge pipe, of course, where all the stuff goes, the smoke or whatever. So I opened the cast iron oven and there's a whole bunch of ashes and stuff. So I'm digging through the ashes. And as I dig through the ashes, I'm finding jewels, rubies, pearls, emeralds, like hefty, very expensive, like artifacts. And I didn't know it then because it was so long ago. But I believe that dream spoke to some of the gifts that were given to me by God, of course, that she had also left for me. Because I know my mom, she used to see stuff and she would know stuff. And we had experienced it a lot of times. And now I walk in some of those same gifts. So, yeah. And that was a very long time ago. But yeah, she left stuff for me. Now she was still here in the dream, but she said, go in there. I left some stuff for you. And literally emeralds, pearls, gold, diamonds. She had left for me in the ashes of this huge iron cast oven. But yeah, like stuff like that and some more. I keep prayer journals and because I dream so often and so vividly. But like I said, anytime she's in it, I know to pay attention. So Mom, she said she was going to come see me.
Well, we talk about if you have any signs or anything like that. And so I'm really glad that you brought that up. Other than the dreams and the messages that way, have you experienced anything else or seen anything else like that?
Well, yes. Y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but I don't care. So I remember, and this was a few years ago because I was in Illinois in the last house that I was in, and I was asleep. There's a point where you're in between sleep, so you're lucid but not 100% there. And I remember we had the bed positioned to where you could see there was a huge window. So it poured light through the thing. And I heard multiple voices calling my name to the point where I woke up. Now, out of all the voices, I recognized hers the most. And I was awake when I heard one of the last voices that were calling my name were hers. So I immediately got up and went into my prayer closet and began to pray. So yeah, I won't say everyone experiences stuff like that, but definitely I do. So yeah, so many things have transpired that let me know, God is watching and she's still involved in some things. So yeah.
Wow. Do you have any like smell, sight, taste, sound, anything that reminds you of her or your dad?
I will say the one thing that does with my dad is cigarette smoke. He was a smoker. He was a heavy smoker. And to this day, this happened maybe a year ago, maybe a year or two ago. And I woke up to the smell of cigarette smoke. So I'm praying. I'm like, okay, Lord, what does this mean? I'm praying. At the time, I was doing something. I do something called a prayer boot camp where I'll take somebody and we'll pray together for 21 days to form a habit of prayer. And the smell of cigarette smoke just kept it was so prevalent. Like, I'm not a smoker and no one in my house is a smoker. So I know it's not and I was in a house, so it wasn't coming through like an apartment or anything like that. And my smell sense is so strong. Anything sense will tip me off or whatever. So I was praying about what it meant. So when I met up with my prayer boot camp participant, I was led to pray for fathers because that's what had been on my heart. And then come to find out, the participant was having an issue with her father. So God uses all things, like you said, sense, vision, all of our senses, our feelings. He will use all of that. And in that case, he used the scent of cigarette smoke to trigger the thought of my father and in turn pray about fathers. So, yeah.
Wow. So I want to do one more question here, and then I want to get into kind of what you're doing now, because I always think that what we do now usually is kind of impacted by our parents, either presence or lack thereof. So is there anything that you know now about grief that you would like to tell your younger self?
Yeah, I would say, and I'm still being hard-headed because I still kind of do it, I'm sorry, but I would tell my younger self, don't isolate. There are people that you are depriving your presence of. You're depriving them of your energy. You're depriving them of your thoughts and your memories. You're depriving them of a chance to grieve with you. And then you're depriving yourself. You don't got to go through everything yourself. You don't have to understand everything right off the bat. You don't have to have it all together in a nice little neat bow before you're able to move forward. Yeah, get around some people that love you and allow them to love you through the process and love them as well. Yeah. Don't isolate, little Andrea. Don't you do that. Furthermore, it's a trick of the enemy, if I can say, because the enemy wants to get you alone and kick you while you're down, right? But if you by yourself, guess what? You getting kicked alone by yourself, but you got some people around you that can take the brunt for you while you're in your weakened and or vulnerable state, then you're less likely to get that beating that you experience by yourself if you isolate.
In either one of those situations, when your dad passed away or when your mom passed away, anything that a friend did or your husband did that just really supported you or stuck out in your head?
When my dad went, I was living in Illinois and my best friend was living in Texas. And when I called her, and of course I'm sobbing uncontrollably, she can't understand what I'm saying. She had to flight. I don't know if she was there that same day or early the next morning. I believe she was there the same day, because when I woke up the next day, she was in my kitchen washing dishes and cooking breakfast and everything. She hopped the flight. She didn't have to know details. She was like, my friend needs me. And when I woke up, she was there. So yeah, man. And knowing that it's usually the closest person that is to you that will take that beating. Like when my mom passed, I remember my husband, he would just want to come sit with me. And I remember snapping on him, and I feel bad about it to this day. Of course, I apologize, but it's I didn't know how to accept that love. I was hurting and get away from me because I'm And so now that I think about it, he was trying to just be that support, but I need to be alone. And yeah, I snapped at him. And I remember him looking at me, and I remember him looking so hurt, and he just got up and left. But inside, I was like, don't leave. But then outside, I was like, ah. So, so messed up. But yeah. Yes, I remember, people were just trying to support. We are not so different. So we are not so different is the name of my podcast. And it started, this April will be 4 years, y'all. That started, let me tell you the story. So I don't remember where I was, but I remember clear as day, I heard the Lord say, podcast. Now, mind you, I had never listened to a podcast, never watched a podcast, didn't know what the heck a podcast was. But I know the Lord said podcast, so I prayed about it. I sat on it, but I prayed about it. Next thing I know, someone gives me a laptop for free. Someone gave me a recording microphone for free. Someone designed my website for free. I said, well, I guess I'm doing a podcast, y'all. So, yeah, we are not so different. And we talk about life, all the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. Like you're doing this parentless podcast, which is phenomenal, by the way. Thank you for having me. We talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. So social media will have you fooled thinking that everybody's life is glitz and glam. No, it's not. Nobody wants to talk about infertility or how many miscarriages you had while you was trying to have that beautiful baby. Or the fact that your husband is beating you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but we're going to take this Instagram smile cheese for the camera. Or foster children, or abortion, or loveless relationships, bad marriages, all the icky parts that are in life that nobody wants to talk about because it's taboo. Well, that's what we talk about, because it's great that you're glitz and glam and your life is perfect, but how did it get there? Tell somebody the real story so they know that we are not different and that we do experience those same trials and tribulations and that there's good stuff on the other side. So even if you're walking through the ugly part, guess what? The other side is the good stuff. So we talk about all that stuff, and it's really like a conversation like we're having now. Like it's just, I say we, but because I say my listeners are my babies. I call them into my living room and tell them to get comfortable. So yeah, I've been doing that for about 4 years and have met some amazing people, and I love it. I love it. We are not so different.
I saw that you have like a hoodie out there, right? Do you have some things for sale?
So they're my logo, basically. They're We're Not So Different hoodies. They're currently in storage. Like I said, I transplanted myself from Illinois to Georgia, but we can work that out if y'all get at me in my DMs or whatever. Also, I'm an author. I wrote a devotional called Daily Devotions from the Heart of an Encourager. And those are also for sale. You can find those on Amazon. You don't have to wait for me to ship you a hard copy. You can just download it. Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of stuff going on. And you talked about your degrees here. Didn't you just recently receive one of those within the last?
I have my bachelor's and my master's, but neither one of those are recent, but they still mine. I have the blood, sweat, and tears to prove it. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations on that. That is definitely very, very unique. Not unique. I mean, it is. I don't know, bachelor's and a master's. I don't have either one of those. So
that's all right.
Very good. That's right. So what's your like forte?
So I don't know. People.
It's okay.
I do know. Yeah. People are my forte. I like people. And I like not just the regular people, the ones that got it all together. Give me the nerds, give me the rejects, give me the ones that don't have friends, give me the ones that's outcast, give me the ones that nobody wants to talk to. Bring me the stinky kid in class. Give me all them, because I just want to love on them. I just want to, because it's like, oh my gosh, I grew up very poor. We grew up very poor. So I know what it's like to go without. And I know what it's like to be on the outside of the cliques and the circles. I was a band geek. I played the trombone, the biggest.
No way.
I kid you not. The most awkward instrument. And my mom, all she wanted me to was to be a girly girl. So she would put me in these long, flowery skirts that were to my ankles, like I was on Little House on the Prairie. So here I am carrying a backpack, which was really a duffel bag, on my back with a long, flowery skirt down to my ankles, carrying a big old trombone case home. I wasn't the most popular, but I turned out okay.
Hey, you're really taking me back to my childhood. You got.
So yes, bring me them people. I want to love on people. I love the babies, the adults. I would say that's my forte. Engaging with people, encouraging people, and letting them know that today don't last always. It's okay. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to cry, but after that, we're going to get up and get back. Okay. So, yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned like a prayer boot camp. I feel like you got all these little things going on that you're just not telling us. So
I'm sorry.
What can really people get from you? Tell me.
So I do. And this is the first time I think I'm publicly speaking about it. So there's this thing I do. It's called a prayer boot camp for people that are really looking to solidify their prayer life. So anything you do for 21 days is supposed to be a habit, right? So I'll take one person. I've done it with 2 before. That was pretty cool. And we'll come together and we'll pray for 21 days straight. I say it's a boot camp because I've got some I say they're strict rules, but maybe they're not strict to other people. So 1, the participant must call me because that's their way of showing initiative. So we'll pick a time to start, whether it's 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. It must be prior to you starting your day. So say we choose 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, the prayer participant calls me. You get a 5-minute grace period. At 5:06, I am turning off my phone and you don't have access to me. And then you get 3 strikes. So if you miss once, you miss twice on that third time, and it could be day 20. If you miss on that third time, it completely cancels out everything. You have the option to stop, or we can start over from day 1 again. And like I said, the whole purpose is to make prayer a priority, because I know from experience, when I start my day off with prayer, it goes better. And it's just another way to point people to Christ. There's no charge. I do this for free because I want people to come into the knowledge of Christ. I want people to know who they are in Christ and who God is in them, and become familiar with the gifts that have been left for them from their parents and their mamas and their fathers and their lineage. So yeah, prayer boot camp. I currently have, I think, 2 on the docket, and I'm also going to be starting some other things in a different country. I'm really excited. By God's grace, I'll be able to keep it going.
What is one thing that you will remember your mom for the most?
I think I will remember how she was able to love people in spite of. And I think it was shown a lot to my dad, because like I said, she had every reason to be mad. I mean, spitting nails mad. But I didn't see her do that. I didn't see her hold grudges. I didn't see her become violent in any way, shape, or form. And others as well. Like I said, we grew up pretty poor. But I would watch my mom give her last to people who she felt maybe needed it a little bit more than we did. That's saying a lot for a woman with 5 kids, right? I would see her walk miles to work, walk to the second job, work some more, and then walk home. Like, I witnessed these things. Like, she had a level of tenacity that was unrivaled, but at the same time, would just love on some people, man. And she wasn't trying to make a broadcast about it. She wasn't like, I hate how people, they'll feed the homeless and they're video recording the whole time. You just defeated the whole purpose. Let that person's dignity remain intact. It doesn't have to get all over social media to show that you did a good thing. So she just loved people, man. And I think that's I think that's the thing that would stick with me. If I can say that I lived a life like hers, even halfway like, I would call myself lucky.
And you just told us that, you deal with the people. That's kind of what you do. So I really love that is, directly from your mom. And that's kind of the gift one of the gifts that she has.
Yes, she did. Yep.
Is there anything that we haven't spoke about that you want to share before we're done?
I don't think so. I think you're a great host. I think you ask a lot of questions that really make me think on the fly. So thank you. I'm happy to be a part, and hopefully something was said today that would help someone. That would be my ultimate goal. And if y'all want anything, just find me on Facebook, talk to me. We could talk. I'm not one of those people. I'm going to respond. So yeah, find me.
Well, I definitely appreciate you being here with us today and telling us about your parents. And again, just one more time, maybe run down kind of where they can contact you.
Sure. Website, wearenotSoDifferent.com, www.wearenotSoDifferent.com. There's a contact me spot on there where you can reach out to me. There's the We Are Not So Different 1, as in the number 1, at gmail.com, where you can reach out to me directly, or the business phone number, 630-358-9911. I also have a YouTube page. How did I not find me on YouTube under Andrea Powell? Yeah, there's lots of content there. I'm going to get better at this. I promise, Steph.
Yeah, no, you're amazing.
I'm used to being on the other side of, but yeah, I'm going to get better at this. Yes. Find me on YouTube as well. I'm there. Mm-hmm.
You're great. And you mentioned that you talk a lot, but I love a guest that is going to talk a lot. That's what we're about, right?
Right.
So, thank you so much for visiting us. Take care.
Take care.
Parentless Podcast is recorded in Phoenix, Arizona. Find us on social media and most major podcast platforms. Music provided by Colin Lococo and The Revolving Birds. Studio and editing provided by Back Home Media and Ian Ralliford. Check out one of the many shows on our network. I am your host, Stephanie Ralliford.